Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, guys, to the YouTube channel of Get Set Law by IMS. My name is Siddhant Singh, and as you have already seen on our multiple platforms, that we have started up with our live analysis of the weekly test, which takes place at different IMS centers. And today we are starting up with the CLAT Challenger live analysis. So I will be taking you guys ahead with what exactly will be there in this session. And if you have appeared for one of our sim clats, which happen every week, and this is for one of the challenger, that is the mock which has taken place. And if you have appeared for it, so this is an overall analysis where you will come to know that what exactly the paper was, what all different sections, in how many questions to be attempted in those sections, and what should be the ideal score different section wise, and so on and so forth. So let's start it here. And if you anytime have any question, you can just put it in the chat box with me. Okay. So to start with over here, since the entire session flow and what will be the major takeaways कि हमें इससे क्या मिलने वाला है, हम इस session को attend करेंगे. So this is for the analysis part which the Challenger test series have been taking care. So first is the level of difficulty of the mock section wise we will be telling you. Then what are the total number of questions you should have attempted or would have left in the particular mock, in that particular challenger test, if that what is the ideal attempt over there. Then besides the ideal attempt, the questions to leave and questions to attempt, this particular sim CLAT, which is conducted by IMS Get Law, is mapped with any year's CLAT or not. So what is the level? It is meeting the standards of what actually come in the main paper. Then the ideal score range for that particular section. And if there is any practice set out of all the questions which are there in the paper, if to be solved by any of the faculty with you right now in this live analysis, then they will be taking you forward. So, and the entire flow of subjects in this session will be first legal reasoning will be taken by me. English language will be taken by Neha ma'am. Logical reasoning will be taken by Shweta ma'am. Quantitative techniques will be taken by Tushar sir, and current affairs by Shashank sir. Okay. So let's not waste much of your time. And once again, welcome guys to the YouTube channel of IMS Get Set Law. And if you guys are here for the very first time, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. And please drop into your comments in the comment section, because आपके comments देख के हमें अच्छा लगता है और हमें motivation मिलता है. Okay. So this is what is exactly there for the legal reasoning section part. So in this particular CLAT Challenger, the total questions which we tried to map was, the total questions were of 32 questions. That is, there are 3 passages with 6 questions, totaling to 18 questions, and 2 passages with 7 questions each, then 14 questions, totaling 32 questions. The majorly paper was on the current legal topics, that is the current legal knowledge. No static part was there in this particular challenger, because we wanted to map it with CLAT 2023 and 24. And I know a bit of topics were there from TOT or some of the contracts, but we tried to keep it corely a mix of 23, 24 for legal reasoning section. The current legal topics are Indian Stamp Bill, Enforcement Directorate summons which were issued by the EDs on multiple cases to make them present into the particular case before the court. Then charges for unruly behavior of a passenger during the flight. So there were a lot of rules to be framed, that if someone is doing wrong or being abusive while the flight is on board, तो उनके साथ क्या legal action लिया जाना चाहिए. Then there is a Kerala's Street Vendors Act 2014 and Uniform Civil Code Uttarakhand Bill 2024. So these were the topics which were there in the current legal, and if you would have went through the current legal of past 2-3 months, then you must have been able to crack it. The difficulty level, we try to keep it near about medium to hard, where we wanted that students should get a taste of actual CLAT, and this is what we have tried to create. So attempts ideally out of 32, ranging between 27 to 29, but if it is near about 25, 26, then also it is fine. That means total 5 to 6 questions. There is a scope to leave it, but attempting all remaining questions completely without negative, because the questions were not very tricky. A few questions were there, which I'll be taking up in this session. Then we try to map it to 23, 24, and the ideal score range for legal reasoning section was 24 to 26. And if you fall in this particular section, then very good guys, आपने बहुत अच्छी पढ़ाई करी है. So question number 75 was there, and question number 84 in the paper if you have access to the CLAT challenger test. So give me guys just 1 minute and I'll just take it forward. Okay, fair enough. So moving ahead, this particular practice set, it has a basis of the bill which I was talking about. That was the Kerala Street Vendor Act it is talking about. So the Street Vendor Act was majorly about that the government has got the power, and they have the power that what all disputes between the vendors of the streets takes place. There should be a committee, and who should be part of that committee. That is what was there in the passage. So I'm not explaining the passage here. So the particular question, why I've taken it over here, I'll just brief you onto that. So the question says that Mishal, one of the street vendor who has been victimized due to his caste, faces several potential legal actions. So there is a point which is he has been victim because of the difference of the caste which he belongs to, and he faces certain political legal actions following his recovery from the violent attack. So this is what a bad treatment has been done with Vishal. And after being hospitalized for 35 days due to an assault from fellow street vendor, he might consider the following legal steps. So this is one of the suggestive options which we need to mark, because there is no direct support which was given to the passage. And out of all the 4 options, the correct answer was option B, which says that need to seek remedies under the SC/ST Tribe Prevention of Atrocities Act due to the caste-based nature of the assault, because the victimization has been taken place due to the difference in the caste, and he can approach this particular to go for the remedy as per the SC/ST Tribe Act. And the information has not been provided in the passage, but this is somewhere the CLAT has also been testing, where at times we need to apply that extra knowledge, and that is the reason the answer was B. Taking ahead with the last question for this. So these were the 2 questions which I believe that किसी बच्चे से if they would have left it, it would have been a good deal. Time बच जाता आपका. ठीक है. So I'll just put you guys with the question. This is talking about the bill, that is the Uniform Civil Code Uttarakhand bill. So this bill has been talking about, इसमें provisions दिए गए थे. I think President श्रीमती मुर्मू जी ने ये present करके, and then the bill was approved. That was Uniform Civil Code Uttarakhand bill. इस पर्टिकुलर बिल में ये चीजें बताई गई थी कि आपके जो मैरिज है विच इज टेकिंग प्लेस इन द डिस्ट्रिक्ट ऑफ उत्तराखंड हिमाचल में, या लिव इन रिलेशनशिप्स के, इनकी रजिस्ट्रेशन कंपलसरी, तो ऐसा कुछ भी कंपलसरी नहीं था, बट अगर कोई नोटिस इशू कर दिया गया है तो डेफिनेटली आपको रजिस्ट्रेशन कराना कंपलसरी बन जाता है. सो आई जस्ट टेक यू गाइस विद द क्वेश्चन. सॉरी, दिस वाज द क्वेश्चन. सो राहुल एंड रिद्धि, बोथ रेसिडेंट्स ऑफ उत्तराखंड, वर इन लव but faced opposition from their families. Consequently, they married secretly and choose to live separately to keep their marital status hidden. So basic reading दिए, बहुत difficult tricky question नहीं था. Suspecting their marital status, some family members filed an application at the registrar of marriage to disclose their marital status. So passage में if you have already have an access, and if you don't have an access, don't worry, link is provided in the नीचे description में दिया गया है. Click it on it, go and have an access to CLAT challenger paper and just download and try to attempt it, or at least go through the questions which are there in the live analysis. तो उसमें ये चीज बताई गई थी कि अगर इंस्पेक्शन कोई करता है तो क्या हम रजिस्टर ऑफ द पीपल कैन बी टेकन जिन्होंने मैरिज किए, इज इट ओपन फॉर इंस्पेक्शन और नॉट. ये इन्फॉर्मेशन पैसेज में दी गई थी. So suspecting their marital status, some family members filed an application to disclose their marital status at the registrar. Rahul Riddhi, preferring not to disclose their status, they filed a writ petition in Uttarakhand High Court. So decide as their lawyer. So now again a suggestive question comes. The question stem समझना जरूरी हो जाता है कि अगर मैं lawyer हूँ और मुझे ये एक argument present करना है, you would choose to win the case. मतलब what argument would you put? So out of all the options, if you see यहाँ पे उन्होंने writ petition फाइल किया और वो बोल रहे हैं कि हमारी privacy पे impact पड़ रहा है क्योंकि आप हमारे बारे में जानना चाहते हैं. They wanted their marital status to be hidden. इस पॉइंट को अगर ध्यान में रखें तो ऑप्शन बी feasible लगता है, because they could argue that disclosing their marital status without their consent violates the right to privacy. Again, passage में information नहीं दी गई थी, but आपसे as a lawyer एक argument raise करना था, and out of all the four options, option B was a better option because it is talking about the violation. So थोड़ा सा extra knowledge लगाना पड़ा, but CLAT का टेस्ट देना था तो जरूरी था. So that is what is from my end for the legal reasoning section. But एक आपके लिए surprise है, that is CLAT Challenger Mock Test 4 is coming up by the end of this month. That is on Sunday 28th of July. So जुलाई का महीना चालू हो गया है, 4-5 महीने बचे हैं. CLAT की प्रिपरेशन करनी है, जानना है कि आपकी रैंक स्कोर एनालिसिस में किस किस जगह पे आप स्टैंड करते हो. This test is for you guys, and time है 2 से 4 बजे. For more details, click on the link which is given in the description below. And कहीं मत जाना, because of English language section चालू होने वाला है. Neha ma'am will be taking up from here. And if you have any doubt, anything to say on, please comment section में जरूर बताइएगा. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. I hope I am audible. Am I audible? So let's talk about English language, VA, verbal ability. This is one of the sections you guys would opt to go for, right? As soon as you start your section, as soon as you start entering your CLAT paper, you are met with verbal ability. And that also seems like a good option to go by, is because English is a comforting language to people. They think they'll be able to perform. Challenger. What Challenger offered us and how could we have gone about it, and did our perception really hit with how we were performing on this, right? Verbal ability, now it's one of the most scoring because it's easy to understand, go by only if we could work on our reading. Now, this also can build a lot of confidence in us, is because to be able to eliminate options could be an easy task. However, this may not be if the topic is again not of our comfort zone, right? Now, one thing that we usually go through in verbal ability is that there is a lot of reading happening. Now, how many of you think that you are dealing with a problem where reading does not come to you easily, or you would skip a certain information that you later on thought was so important? If that is happening to you right now, if you think reading has not come to you and you become anxious while attempting this, so one thing that you should really focus on is to be learning to read very well. Now, when we say learn to read very well, the one thing you should know is reading to a purpose is to not read each and every line, rather skim through the main ideas of the passage, right? Now, that's where a quick review can help you. That's where our TLCQ technique can help you, which is what? Topic, language, content, and questions. Now, I'm pretty sure this has been spoken to you and this has been discussed with you by your mentors, but I would try to reiterate that if you have not realized the importance of this technique, then we are at fault here. So let's quickly understand how this technique would help us, right? Now, the first thing is, uh, just give me a moment, we'll go from here. Is my camera on? Can you see me? Because it shows it's my camera is on here. Okay, I will see. I can. Now is my camera visible? Can you please confirm? Hello. Is my camera now visible? Can someone confirm? Not yet. Uh, it. Uh, okay. Let's see. I mean, I will try to again turn it on. It is on so far for me. Let's see. I hope it's visible now. All right. I think there's some technical glitch. We've not been able to work with the camera here, but here I am. I hope my voice does justice to what we're trying to achieve here. Now, here when you look at this technique, topic, language, content, and question. Start with topic. Now, a lot of times students have issues with a certain philosophy passage or a science passage. If you've already identified, please stay aligned that you do not become anxious when you're attempting these. That's the only game changer when it comes to verbal ability, right? Then comes to language. Is it heavily worded? Are there vocabulary words that would throw you off or would actually not help you comprehend the whole passage very well? So this is what language can help you with, an assessment of that. And then comes content. If it is too lengthy, then make sure that you're not putting your focus on each and every line rather than focusing and identifying main key words of it. Now, questions can also help you decide how much is it that you want to put in per passage, right? Now, this particular SimCLAT, if I have to comment on, the target of attempts could have been 20 to 22. There were a few questions that you knew could get you negative marking, so that could have been skipped. A good score would have been between 17 to 18. Now let's dive into it and check exactly what SimCLAT Challenger 3 offered us. All right, let's start with passage number one. Now, passage one, the topic of the passage was sociology, polity. They're basically talking about Kerala politics around freedom struggle and what exactly led to a party's beginning in Kerala. Now, when we looked at question number one, the main topic discussed in the passage was, now this was a direct question. However, we have seen that we sometimes struggle to really understand where the main idea is, correct? Now, I'm pretty sure option number A was extremely attractive here. But what we really needed to align is to look for red flags in these options, right? We needed to look at words that should have helped us eliminate it better. Now, as you would have gone through the whole passage, you would have seen it, you would have realized that nowhere in the passage do they discuss the role of CPK, right? So option number A could have gone out. Although they were building to formation of it, they never said anything about the role they per se played. So A was out. That was not the main topic, right? Now option number B seemed like it, but easy elimination also could not come from option number C. Of course, the rift was spoken about, but again, that was not the main idea of the passage. The idea for such question is that you learn to eliminate options, not even options. Sometimes there are these problematic words per option is where your focus should be. Half the time we focus on better reading of the passage. Well, if that could have fetched us marks, we would have done that. Although a good way to be eliminating gray area in verbal ability, my good suggestion would be to learn to eliminate options rather than selecting anyone. Is that clear? Now that was for passage number one. If I go to passage number two, a quick review on it. Now this was sociology, it was policy making, how they were there trying, a group of people were trying to adapt to a kind of species which is flawless, right? Eugenics. Now here, the question asked you was not very direct. Now, if you look at the passage was quite readable, but question could have told you that this is more critical reasoning based. It was more inference based than verbal ability based, right? Now, such an example where they've given you three statements and they've asked you which one to go for. This required you to A, understand what the author was trying to say, and B, to also stay consistent with aligning thought of the author and applying it here. And if you correctly applied that, your answer should have been option number C. I hope this option was right by you, or you were able to identify in true time. Now, that was passage number two. Other questions were quite doable. Of course, they were also inference based, but had you gone back to be able to eliminate options, you could have gotten it right. So, passage number two is quite all right, average in difficulty level. Now, coming to passage number three again, topic was science and biology. Now, that's exactly what I was talking about. A lot of students get thrown off by a topic from science or bio. But if you had taken a closer look at the passage, you would have realized that the language is extremely easy here. It was quite readable, content was readable, and so were questions. Now, again, the wordings of the questions may have thrown you off. It may not have agreed with you very properly, but the idea for such passages is to stay calm. If you were able to save a few minutes for the previous passages here could have taken more time, and this was one of those passages where words had to be understood. Now, here, if you look at this question, elimination was easy, selection was also easy. And the best part for such a question was to be aligning with what the key words were there. Now, option number D definitely had the word tweaking. Now, tweaking is where the whole discussion in the passage happened, and that was the central thesis, central idea of the passage. So, your answer was option number D. I hope you align with that. Now, let's look at passage number three again, another question. Now, this question a lot of people may have gotten confused with. Option number A and C were easy elimination here. There were no problems with it. Although I'm pretty sure option number B and D did confuse us a little. Is the author suggests that future research of the gut biome and CVD should focus on. Now, in option number B, it says understanding the impact of diet and lifestyle. Sorry, it says lifestyle on the composition of gut bacteria, right? And option number D says investigating the long-term effect of manipulating gut bacteria of overall health. Now, in these two, there are potentially concerns that could be raised, but again, for such questions, try to understand what is the question trying to ask you. Now, here, question was definitely asking you how exactly future research may be progressed at, what can be focused on. Now, option number D could be helped later on, but before that, proceeding to that, option number B seems like your correct answer. I hope you got that right. Right? Both are potential concerns of the research, but B directly impacts the research, right? So option number B was the correct answer. Now, passage number four. Now, passage number four was quite easy. It was a story. It was narrative style. Author was basically trying to share their experience, and through this they opened about what they were trying to come to. Now, this passage was extremely easy, readable. I didn't feel that this should have taken time. I hope you got all the options correct in all the questions. However, there is one question that you may have seen in all the simclats, which is pertaining to figures of speech. Now, this question a lot of people are getting wrong. Well, let's start with the basic. You should be able to focus on basics and vocabulary, practicing reading, and figures of speech could again be a game changer. It could help you get that differentiation factor when it comes to VA, verbal ability, right? Now, here, this question was about that. Now, option number A talks about synecdoche. Now, at such a point, I should know enough about synecdoche to be able to eliminate it here if not selected. Now, if you do not know, synecdoche is basically when you take a smaller part to be defining a larger part. For example, if I say, I got my new wheels. Now, the word wheels is applied for the whole car, and I'm taking a part to refer to the whole, right? So, this gives me elimination that synecdoche is not. Nowhere are they expressing that in option number A. Option number B is he's saying I saw new shoots, and where it's associative with the memory of the mother, seems like it that it has converted into a metaphor. And option number D is personification. Well, not, it was not. Option number D definitely goes out. Answer was option number B. Now, please ensure that you are making notes on figures of speech personally. That should really help you. Now, that was all about all the passages. What's our takeaway? Although this was challenger, it wasn't very challenging in VA. It was actually doable. The difficulty level was average. Had you learned to skim very well and keep your composure as it is, you would have been able to do it. It could have also boost confidence in people. It does do that. This was one of the sections that could have helped you. I hope you have scored well. And when in panic, usually we strategize to read each and every word. My suggestion to you would be, please learn to skim, not focus so much on reading, but reading the options and learning to eliminating the options really well. Well, I hope this really helped you. I hope you were able to score very well. This was all from my side for verbal ability, and I hope I was able to clear your doubts. Now I will ask Shweta ma'am to come in and help you guys with logical reasoning. Till then, my suggestion is please keep reading and having fun with verbal ability. Thank you.
Okay, hello everybody, welcome to the session. After analyzing the verbal section, we are going to discuss now the logical reasoning. So when it comes to this section, particularly in CLAT 12, this logical reasoning, which consists of, you have around 24 questions, right? And 4 passages with 6 questions. In this particular exam, if you see the particular section, logical reasoning, we got major 4 types of questions. That is the one we got primary purpose or central theme of the passage. We got around 3 or 4 questions based upon that. And then we second got to strengthen or weaken the argument. So when it comes to the reasoning, right, we need to apply our analytical skills, right? We need to figure it out, the argument of the, the argument of the author, what he wants to say, what he doesn't want to say. So here we had lots of questions, around 7 questions we had based upon strengthening the argument or weaken the argument, right? So when it comes to when you say strengthen, what you need to figure it out, that I need an option which can add a piece of information that actually it strengthen the argument of the author. So we need to support the author's argument. Just like being a lawyer, I need to add a additional piece of evidence where I can say, yes, author is correct. Whereas weaken the argument, we need to go against the argument. And we'll discuss 1 or 2 questions, what the strategy that we could have followed. The third type of question you would have seen, that is a course of action, where you need to find the solutions, right? So they have given you some problem from the passage itself. So what sort of course of action author would have taken? So based upon the author's point of view, we'd have to take a course of action. And in this particular paper, you must have seen there were around 5 questions, which are assumption-based questions. So that just like a bridge, you have a premise, you have a conclusion, and based upon what assumption, author has driven the conclusion. So author, they have given you the conclusion, right? And you need to find the assumption of the author. So these are all types of questions where we use in a day-to-day life also. We use these reasoning skills, right? So these are if you see the level of over this, it was the medium to hard, but the certain questions were easy to medium as well. And if I talk about how many questions we supposed to attempt actually. In this one, 24 questions like you had. So we were supposed to, just a second, I can. Yeah, just a second, guys. Something happened. Just give me a minute. Okay, so if you see this one, we were supposed to do like out of 24 questions, 19 to 21. So if you really going to get into NLSIU, you have to do around 19 to 21 questions over here. And it was like 23, 24 CLAT exam. And yes, ideal score range has to be 18 to 21. The ideal attempt timing would be, it would be like 20 to 25 minutes, but it was slightly medium to hard. So 25 minutes would be enough, not more than that, 25 to 30. That would be the ideal time with this one. In this one, these are the major 5 types of questions that we have already discussed. We will left with only 5th question. You got around 4 to 5 questions based upon this also. Which of the following must necessarily be true? So must necessarily be true. So they have given you, 4 options. Here the trick was when you say must necessarily be true, I need to apply the elimination process. And if I have understood the passage well, right, I need to eliminate all those options which are incorrect. So either it could be incorrect or it could be irrelevant. So we need to find the true. And other way around, they have asked you which of the following must not be the truth, or so we need to figure the correct option. So here, whenever they ask you must necessarily be true, we need to find the correct one. So we're going to apply the elimination process. Just if I talk about this particular thing, this was a question from the passage 1, guys. If you see this one, as we were discussing about strengthening the argument, here it was strengthening the argument. Which of the following, if true, the very important, whenever they say if true, I can add a new piece of information. As you already know, we need to strengthen the author's concerns about climate change. So here author he was actually concerned about the climate change, right? He wants something that should be done over there. Right, so we need to find an answer. So whenever you do such questions, right, strategy over here is that, guys, whenever you do these reasoning-based questions, strengthening the argument, right, make sure before you look at the options, always just try to find out what do you require, what sort of answer I require. So don't jump to the options immediately, right? If you jump to the options immediately, you will end up taking a more time, right? So spend few minutes, try to understand the task when it comes to these types of questions. What am I supposed to do? So when it says that I need to add a piece of information, so you need to think like a lawyer, right? I need to add a piece of information which actually support that, yes, author is correct. We actually need to raise concern about climate change. Now, in a few seconds, you can even get a piece of information that I need something in my mind, which, the climate change, we really need to address climate change. as soon as possible. Probably there must be obstacles are coming when it comes to talking about climate change. So I need a negative sort of option regarding climate change. So let's look at that. Keeping that much in your mind, then you quickly go through the options. So if you see option 1, it says that the atmosphere acts as a climate regulating unit for the entire Earth. Massive reforestation and afforestation are underway. Now, if you see over here, massive reforestation and afforestation are underway in South Africa, South America, Europe. These forests are expected to turn back the dial on climate change by around 3 decades. Now, if you see over here, it's a positive tone. They are taking some measures, isn't it? They're talking about reforestation, afforestation. So I will immediately eliminate this option. So now I will not take much time while reading the options, while eliminating the options. If I take few seconds before jumping to the options. Look at the B option. It says that over 93% of causative factors for climate change can be traced back to the actions of corporations. But these corporations get away with. Why? Because they have deep pockets with which they can influence policy decisions of governments across the world. It shows that obviously if they have deep pockets, right, and they can influence policy decisions, it seems negative. We literally need to concern about the climate change. They may not be able to address those issues, or they don't want to. They may not want to, right? So this looks good. I'll keep it by side because it says something negative, not addressing the climate change. Let's look at the C option. It says that the countries that account for nearly 80% of the Earth's population have pledged to achieve the emission control goals set as a part of the Paris Agreement, a legally binding international treaty on climate change. Now, if you see about the C, it's talking about they have taken pledge to achieve the emission control. It's positive tone, right? It doesn't talk about the raising the author's concern. Immediately eliminate this option, right? And same as look at the D option over here. A large group of people typically allege that through worldwide acts of professional and criminal misconduct behind the global warming and climate change has been invented and distorted. Again, it's positive tone. It's giving you a positive tone, ideological and financial reasons. They are putting efforts, right? So based upon that, I can definitely mark option B. So this sort of question, it's no doubt, it's actually medium to like, but it can be easy once you get to know what is the task am I supposed to do, right? So, okay, we'll see this one also. Look at this one question. Which of the following, if true, would most help allay the fears of the author? Again, it's true, if true, right? Again, you need to think as a lawyer, I need to add a new piece of information. Would help allay the fears of the author. It help reducing the fears of the author, right? I need over here some positive tone, right? So let's say where the positive tone is given, where something favorable for climate change. Option A, keeping that much in your mind that I need something positive, something very helpful for the climate change, I need to pick up that option. Now, let's jump to the options over here. It says that across the world, citizen groups championing various environmental causes unite to bear pressure on policymakers to frame laws for reversing climate change. If that is the case, there is a pressure on policymakers to frame laws, right? It looks nice, right? This is something I need. Okay. The course of action, it looks I got. Okay. We were discussing this one, guys. We need to reduce the fears of the author. Option A, for many years, India has been, okay, that was a different one, guys. For many years, India has been doing more than any other country towards becoming a zero emission nation. Now, this looks very good. If you see, this option looks pretty good. It says that India has been doing more than any other country. But we don't have any quantifiable data that what India is doing, what other countries are doing, is it really going to impact on the climate change? Is it going to be really effective for the climate change? We don't know at all, right? So that's why this option can be eliminated, right? This is a very trickier option. It seems very good. It has been doing more than any other country. So such sort of options are very, very trickier, right? at first place, even if you feel you can keep it aside, you need to pick up the best option. I'll pick up the B option. Advances in production technology and machinery, accompanied by worldwide movements towards recycling and sustainability, are expected to decrease the quantum of global warming by around 1% over the, now it says only 1% over the next decade. Now, just think as a lawyer, is it going to be meaningful? No. Isn't it 1% over the next decade? So I'm not going to pick it up, right? 9. Option C. Citizens of nations across Europe have increasingly been moving to a more sustainable lifestyle that will help tackle global warming. Okay. Okay. Now, does it really going to allay the fears of the author? Now, if you see, this one has been increasingly moving to a more sustainable life that will help tackle global warming, but let's keep it by a side. It looks very good. I'll keep it by a side. Look at the option D. Globally, policymakers, by and large, have been promoting initiatives and passing laws that place the onus of reducing global warming on big corporations that cause for 3/4 of global warming. Now, if I need to pick up between C and D, which one is a better option? It's definitely D. The reason being over here is that the cause of over 3/4 of global warming, we have a complete data, quantifiable data, which shows that it is really going to help for 3/4, that is a 75%. Whereas in C, though it's given, they're moving to a more sustainable life, but it's really going to help. Is it really going to impact the global warming or not? That we don't know, right? So between C and D, you have to pick up the D option. So in such questions, you really need to think as a lawyer that how can you add a piece of information in the author's argument to convince, you can say, to convince the judge, right? So I need to pick an option. Actually, it's going to reduce the fears of the author. So such kind of questions, you really need to have the reasoning over here, the logical reasoning. So as we have discussed, sure. So whenever you move to such questions, make sure you rephrase the questions. As we have discussed, whenever they give you if true, right? You have around 7 to 8 questions. Rephrase the questions. What thing I want from the answer. So spend few minutes on the particular, spend few seconds on a particular question, figure it out what task, what sort of answer do you require. After that, apply the elimination process. Either it may be contradictory if you're figuring out. Second, the option can be relevant. It's neither strengthening the argument nor weakening the argument. C, it can be partially correct, partially incorrect. This elimination process applies where it comes to in your passage, there are a lot of primarily, what is the central theme? What is the main idea? So in that particular option, again, what are you going to do while skipping through the options? You apply elimination process. You can eliminate that particular option, which is partially incorrect. You must have seen in your paper, they have given you very long options, right? So out of that, you can definitely eliminate which is partially incorrect, right? And D, it is incomplete, or either it is incomplete. So you need to pick up the best one. So for example, they have given you 2 options and 2 options are correct. You feel you have kept it aside, right? But if it is incomplete, you just eliminate and you have to pick up the best one. E, you have to eliminate those options where they have actually distorted the information, right? So information is something else, but they have just distorted the information, which we say that evidence has been tempered, right? And F, based upon the tone, just like we have discussed, whether we need a positive tone, negative tone. Most of the questions in this particular exam, when it comes to strengthening or weakening the argument, they have asked you before few seconds, you get to know what sort of tone for a particular thing I required. For example, we have discussed like climate change. Do I need some positive for climate change? That is effectiveness. What sort of actions can be taken to reduce the climate change or something against that? So that you need to figure out the tone. But very important thing, you need to just rephrase the question, just what sort of tone I required. And yes, when you do this questions, make sure you look out for the keywords over here. So there's like, if you have done this, there's one particular question which are the following: if truth, whether it's Cause of concern, just we discussed. Cause of concern for what? For the climate change. So here the clue word, you need to figure it out, the keywords. So these, whenever they give you the call, that is a climate change. That is a keyword. There was a question, long-term sustainability. That is a keyword. So you really need to pay attention to those keywords. Apart from that, in the passage, what are the keywords like you have yet, because, right? So author's tone has been changed. So when you find the author's viewpoint, which is really important to find the author's argument. So when the author is changing his tone, yet, because, these are the important keywords that you need to look for. So when you do the questions, make sure you pay attention to the keywords. So this logical reasoning, 25 to 30 minutes, and it would have been great if you get to 18 to 21, but yes, it needs a lot of practice for this particular questions, right? Okay, so now Tushar sir will take your session, right? Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, good evening. Am I audible and am I visible? Okay. Yes, hi, good afternoon everyone. So let's talk about QT section of this CLAT. So there were 12 questions having 2 passages, right? So the topics that were tested in these 2 passages were percentage, ratio, profit and loss. More or less, if you see, the CLAT also tests these topics: percentage, ratio, profit and loss, and along with it, you should also be good at averages. If you are good at these 4 topics, then you can definitely score really well in QT section in lesser time. And it can be your added advantage, as many law students find maths difficult. But I would say if you just focus on these 4 topics, percent, ratio, average, and profit loss, you can easily get a very good score in QT. Almost, I would say you can easily score 90% of the marks, right? So around 9 to 10 marks, you can easily score out of 12. So the level of difficulty of this CLAT was medium to difficult, which was matched with actual CLAT of 2023. And if you would have attempted a total 8 to 9 questions of this CLAT, it would have been a really good attempt. And further, your ideal score should have been in the range of 5 to 6. Because if you see 2 passages, first passage was testing the concepts of percentages and ratios. So if you are good at calculation of percentage and ratios, you could have easily attempted almost every question of that particular passage. So even if you say you do not attempt second passage and if you just attempt first passage, still you could have solved 6 questions and almost each of those questions was definitely doable. Okay, so I would say 6 questions you should have minimum attempted, and in second passage, if you know the concepts like break even point and everything. So break even means what? Break even means when there is a seller and he incurs some cost in the business. When he he gets back that cost while selling his products or services, then that is called as break even point. So let's say a businessman has spent one CR on his business and he achieves a revenue of 1 CR, that is called as break even point. So if you know this concept of break even, you could have attempted 2 or 3 questions easily from the second passage. And furthermore, for profit and loss, if you know the concept of mark price, cost price, so if you know that markup percentage is applied on cost price and that much percentage you can add in cost price to get the markup price. Also, you know the concept of what is profit, what is loss. So profit is revenue minus cost, that is selling price minus cost price. Then you could have attempted second passage as well very easily. But I would say first passage was a must attempt. Second passage, few students could have left out, and those who are good with concepts of profit and loss could have solved it. So as I said, for CLAT, just focus on these 4 topics. So let's move to next slide just to get an idea of the first passage that was asked. So if you see the first passage, a survey conducted in a large corporation with a total workforce of 5,000 employees in 2023-24 revealed a women to men ratio of 14:11. The survey examined the employees' preference for various work schedules: full-time, part-time, remote, hybrid, flexible hours. So what the passage is testing here, so they have given out of 5,000 employees, women to men ratio is 14:11, right? So you should have known the concept of ratio, how to calculate total number of women and total number of men here. Then if you see all these types of work schedules, full-time, part-time, remote, hybrid, flexible hours, then some percentages were given. It was found that 22% of employees preferred remote work, 30% of women choosing this option. Full-time work was chosen by 45% of employees and 27% of women. Flexible hours were favored by 11% of the employees and 15% of the women. Right? So same way for part-time, 11% of total and 15% of women, and 11% of total for hybrid schedule and 12.5% for total working women. So if you gather this data in a table and quickly get all these values, then all the 6 questions based on this passage would have been a cakewalk for you, right? So I would suggest how to tackle such type of questions. So prepare a table like this for all the given data. I'm just giving a small idea about how you should have gone about it. So this ratio for women to men is 14:11. So 14 plus 11 means 25 parts. So 5,000 has to be divided in 25 parts. 5,000 has to be divided in 25 parts. So 5,000 out of 25 makes it 200, and 14 into 200 makes it 2,800. Right? So how many men would be there? Total working men, 11 parts out of 25 parts. So it would have been 11 out of 25 into 5,000. That is 2,100. Now if you see, the rest of the passage was based on just percentage calculation. So if you see this part, 27.5%. Now how you solve this 27.5% is important. Okay. See, normal way is 27.5 upon 100 into total working women are 2,800. So this is a normal way of solving. But I would say if you know that 25% is 1/4. So 1/4 of 2800 is, means 25% is 1/4 of 2800, which is 700. And 25% is 700. So 2.5%, just one decimal shift. So one decimal shift in 700 would be 70. So 25% plus 2.5% makes it 27.5%. So if you see, this calculation is so easy. 700 plus 70 is 770. So this is an oral calculation that I have done here. Just for showing, I have written it over here. But in the actual exam, you should not even write it. 25%, 1/4 of 2800 is 700. So 25% is 700. So 2.5% is 70. 25 plus 2.5 is 27.5. So 700 plus 70 is 770. So working women are 770. Then this 45%. How will you solve 45%? Normal method says 45% of 5,000. But if you know that 50% minus 5% is 45%. So 50% of 5,000 is 2,500. So 5% would be 250. So 2,500 minus 250 would be very easy to calculate, right? So 2,500 minus 200 is 2,300, and minus 50 is 2250. And now number of men will be 2250 minus 770. So 2,250 minus 70, 2,250 minus 70 will be equal to 2180, and 2180 minus 700 will be 1480. So this is how you should go for calculations, and for this you need to do practice of few simple calculations every day. That would make your job very easy while calculating. So here also you can see 15% of 2800. How would you solve 15 upon 100 into 2800? Or would you do it 10% plus 5%? 10% is very easy. 10% of any number is just shift one decimal to left. So 10% of 2800 is 280. So 5% is half of 280. Half of 280 is 140. Right? So 10% 280, 5% 140. 280 plus 140 makes it 420. So this would be 420. 11% of 5,000. 11% means 10% plus 1%. So 10% of 5,000 is 500. If 10% is 500, 1% is 50. So this will make it 550. So 550 minus 420 will be 130. If you see, these two values were same, so you can fill it up here also. Now 12.5%. If you know that 12.5% is 10% plus 2.5%, the job becomes very easy. 2.5% we had already calculated here, 27.5%. So 2.5% is 70, and 10% is 10% of 2800 is 280. 2.5% is 70. So 280 plus 70 makes it 350. And 11% here is 550. So 550 minus 350, number of men in this work schedule will be 200. And lastly, double of 11% is 22%. So double of 550 is 1100. And 30% of 2800, 10% is 280. So 30% is thrice of 280. So 280 into 3 is 840. If you're good at tables, you can do these calculations very fast. So 30% of 2800. Otherwise, you can just solve in normal method. See, that also would not have taken too much of time. I'm just trying to show you how you should think in the exam. Okay, so this would have been 260. So this way, once you get all these values, if you see all the 6 questions based on this passage, they were so easy to solve once you have all these values ready with you, right? So that's what I wanted to say from this session, that practice the basic topics like percentage, ratio, averages, profit and loss. Just basic concepts, solving basic concepts and doing basic calculations. And if you're good at tables, if you're good at few basic calculations, you can easily attempt 90 to 95% of the questions in the actual CLAT and easily score more than 80 to 85% in QT section. Okay, that's all from my side. So, and keep solving all the simclats and also attempt QT section. I find many students do not attempt QT section just because of fear of maths. Don't do that. Just practice these 4 topics, do basic calculations, practice every day. You can easily get a good score in this section as well. Okay, so I would request Shashank sir to take it forward from here. Bye bye everyone. All the best for remaining simclats.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I hope I'm audible. So just hold on for a second. Let me put up the slides. All right. So this Challenger mock, it had 4 passages with 6 questions and 1 passage with 4 questions. In total, there were 28 questions in the current affairs and GK section. Now, one common question that we mostly have from the students is that, sir, GK में इतना कुछ पढ़ना है, कैसे complete होगा? And most of the times when you solve a mock, questions are very diverse. They are from various genres. They are from various subjects, various genres, and at times they are also factual in nature and they are also understanding based. ठीक है? तो इस situation में selection of question becomes very important. Selection of passages become very important, right? In this SimCLAT, in this challenge mock, what we had done is that we had tried to create a balance, especially in terms of passages, in terms of the genres from which we had taken passages. So the very first passage that you had was on ban on onion exports. Onions related to price rise tha, that was frequently in news, and government had imposed ban on the export of onions to certain countries, right? So इस context में topic काफी important हो गया था. Then Asian Wrestling Championship 2024, which was held in the April month, right? This was a major sports event, which is very relevant from the point of view of this year's examination. As you all know, at times CLAT में sports के ऊपर questions आ रखे हैं. A couple of years back only, CLAT had asked a question on FIFA. So FIFA के ऊपर question आया, तो FIFA की ही तरह जो भी international major events होते हैं sports में, these are very important. ठीक है? So इसमें जो एटलीस्ट जो बेसिक्स होता है, बेसिक्स से थोड़ा ज्यादा डिग इन करके जब हम बैकग्राउंड इंफॉर्मेशन उसको नोट डाउन करते हैं, देन ओनली दैट पर्टिकुलर टॉपिक इज थॉरली कवर्ड. ठीक है? देन या जस्ट अ मिनट. All right, so let me share my screen again. Hold on. All right, just hold on for a minute, guys. I think there's some technical issue. That is the reason my screen is not visible. So just hold on for a second. All right, so I think just check if my screen is visible. Is my screen visible now? All right. So yes. So what I was explaining is that last to last year there was a passage on from the sports journal. There was a passage on FIFA and FIFA apart and FIFA and other similar events, sports international sports event, they become very important. So Asian Wrestling Championship 2024, अभी recent World Cup जो हुआ था वो काफी important हो गया है. So इससे related जो भी important topics हैं sports में, that must be covered thoroughly. So you are not only supposed to note down important facts from the point of view of this year's tournaments, but you should also take few and other important facts about that particular tournament itself. Let's say, for example, Asian Wrestling Championship कब से start हुआ था, FIFA कब से start हुआ था, World Cup T20 for the first time कब start हुआ था. So थोड़ा historical perspective becomes very important, right? Similarly, next championship कब होगा, कहाँ पे होगा, ठीक है. तो ये भी जो फैक्ट्स होते हैं बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होते हैं. Then the next passage was on from the defense sector, defense genre, and it was on hovercraft maintenance unit of the Indian Coast Guard. So recently this the maintenance unit was inaugurated and इससे related कुछ factual questions थे. थोड़ा ज्यादा factual था ये, so I'm expecting कि students को इसमें problem हुई होगी. And this topic was also you know not I wouldn't say कि this topic was something that everyone would have guessed. थोड़ा offbeat topic था, but nonetheless very important topic, right? Then FDI policy on the space sector. So space sector, as when we analyze previous year CLAT examination, GK में space का relevance जो है वो काफी ज्यादा बढ़ गया है ना? From if you will see past 5-year paper, so दो बार तो in fact space से questions आई हैं. In fact, last year Chandrayaan was asked, right? So in this case, space sector. Any news article from this journal, the space journal becomes very important. So, abhi recently, the cabinet had approved the FDI policy for the space sector, and hence there was a passage on this. Then Shabhar Port तो last 10 साल से न्यूज में रहा है ना? काफी important. It is one of the important pillars that we have, especially when we see India's relationship with Iran and Russia. So it is part of international north-south corridor, and as you all know, this port is also strategically important when we see it from the point of view of countering China's initiative, because China has also come up with a port in Pakistan which is very close to Shabahar port. ठीक है. So strategic importance बहुत ज़्यादा है इस port का, and इस port से related जो भी important information है that you must know by heart, right? So information like कौन से ये international corridor का part है, location इसका कहाँ पे है, geographically कौन से गल्फ के आसपास है, ठीक है. तो ज्योग्राफिकली भी जो क्वेश्चंस होते हैं वो इम्पोर्टेंट हो जाते हैं टाइम्स. देन व्हाट इज सीपीसी, व्हाट इज बीआरआई. सीपीसी इज चाइना पाकिस्तान इकोनॉमिक कॉरिडोर. देन व्हाट इज बेल्ट एंड रोड इनिशिएटिव of Chinese government, right? International North South corridor जो है वो क्या है, Ashgabat agreement क्या है. So these are important topics which are related to Shabhar Port. Then Shabhar Port को भी हमने lease पे लिया for 10 years. How much money we intend to invest over a period of 10 years, ठीक है, वो important हो जाता है. Then which Indian company has got it. I mean ये जो Ministry of Shipping के अंदर company है उसका नाम क्या है, किस तरह से वो ऑपरेट कर रही है. Apart from that, अगर शाबार पोर्ट किया है तो simultaneously we also need to read about Kaladan multimodal transport corridor, which intends to connect India, which intends to provide an alternative route to India's northeast via Myanmar. ठीक है. So सितवे पोर्ट से related जो म्यांमार की तरफ जाने वाला पूरा रास्ता है, Kaladan multimodal project, that is also handled by the same company जिसने शाबार पोर्ट का को मैनेज करने वाला है. ठीक है. So in this context, this is how you are supposed to prepare your GK section. I understand that at times it becomes a bit overwhelming because there are a lot of information, and most of these information are most of these information are quite new to you. ठीक है, that is the reason why it is important for you to regularly attend classes and make thorough notes. ठीक है, तो start making topic wise notes, thorough notes बनाओ, उससे जो facts हैं वो properly वहाँ पे mark करके रखो, and whenever you have any new information coming in which is related to that particular topic, write it down at the same place. ठीक है, so in this way probably by the end of November you will have a list of close to 250 to 300 topics जिसपे आपके थॉरो नोट्स हो जाएंगे, और ये नोट्स जो है वो काफी इंपॉर्टेंट होंगे आपके एग्जाम के पर्सपेक्टिव से. ठीक है, so this is how you are supposed to prepare this section. ठीक है, so regular classes, then going through the IMS magazine, that is very important, and solving all these questions on your portal, ये बहुत ही important हो जाता है. Now when we come to this challenger mock series, the level of difficulty, I would rather say it was medium to hard, because there were few questions which were highly factual in nature. In fact, एक hovercraft maintenance unit वाले जो topic था, that was also a bit offbeat. That's what I felt. In fact, most of the students also told me कि थोड़ा इस question को करने में उनको problem हो रही थी. However, ideally जो attempts हैं, that must be around 22 to 26, 20 to 26 I would say. ठीक है, out of 28 question, and it was mapped with CLAT 23-24 paper, and the ideal score range it ranges from 16 to 22. ठीक है, so ये हो जाता है. Now when we go through few of the passages here, so the first passage that I have here, this was passage number 2 in the current affairs section, and this passage was of Asian Wrestling Championship 2024. So there's one more point that I would like to highlight here. So in mostly the students, their approach when it comes to GK is that they straight away jump to the question. They tend to avoid reading the passages. Now it is highly recommended, especially in light of last year's paper, that is CLAT 2024 paper, that you should at least take a cursory glance over the passage. ठीक है, वो एक बार भी अगर आप पैसेज पढ़ लोगे ना, तो you may get some hint which can help you in solving the questions. ठीक है, लास्ट ईयर का जो पेपर था उसमें पैसेज पढ़ने से बहुत सारे क्वेश्चन सॉल्व हो रहे थे, है ना. तो आप इस चीज को अवॉइड नहीं करो. आई अंडरस्टैंड जीके सेक्शन इज प्रीटी मच मेमोरी बेस्ड, बट साइमल्टेनियसली रीडिंग पैसेजेस can help you at least through elimination method. तो elimination method use करके you can eliminate few of the options by using the information given in the passage. ठीक है, so never avoid reading the passage. Time है, थोड़ा टाइम लगेगा, 2 मिनट और लेंगे, but just try to go through the passage. It will give you a good context, and it can also help you in answering few of the questions. Right, now the first question that we have here: which city will host Asian Wrestling Championship? Will host, I mean, when the question was made, उस time ये था नहीं. So had hosted Asian Wrestling Championship 2024. So the correct answer is Bishkek. It is in Kyrgyzstan, and the championship was organized between 11th to 16th of April. How many medals did India won in the 20th Asian Wrestling Championship 2024? So what is the correct answer? The correct answer is 9, option B, right? So India won 4 silver medal and 5 bronze medals. ठीक है, so ये 2 sample questions है. Now you can see from these questions, these are very factual in nature. So factual questions जो है वो तो आपको prepare करना ही है, and that is the reason note making becomes very important. Even when you're going through the magazine, make sure that you're highlighting the relevant portions, especially factual questions में जो आते हैं, है ना. So numbers हो गए, कहाँ पे हो रहा है, मोटो क्या है, थीम क्या है, फर्स्ट टाइम कब हुआ था. These are relevant questions जो कि आपको दी, अगली बार कहाँ पे होने वाले है एशियन रेसलिंग चैंपियनशिप. So these are important facts that must be present in your notes. Next, this is passage number 4, and this passage is on the FDI on the space sector. ठीक है, so recently the cabinet had approved FDI in the space sector, and this was part of Indian Space Policy 2023. As you all know, India is opening up the space sector, and private players को भी बुला रहे हैं, foreign players जो हैं उनको भी हम बुला रहे हैं. So in this context, it becomes very important that the initial limit for foreign direct investment, it was increased. ठीक है, and the space policy 2023 that we have, India intends to liberalize the space sector. Initially, it was thoroughly controlled by the government, but now the government intends to privatize and liberalize it, also globalize it, and that is the reason why the foreign direct investment in the space sector has been increased. Okay? And in fact, this is also reflected in the very first question that we have here. Which of the following accurately describes the FDI policy regarding the establishment and operation of satellites prior to the proposed amendment? Okay? So prior to the uh, proposed amendment, what was the FDI policy regarding uh, regarding the establishment and operation of satellites? Okay? So the correct answer is FDI policy was permitted through the government approval route only. So option B is correct here. पहले क्या था कि in case when the foreign player wanted to invest in the operation of satellites, it had to take prior permission from the government, then only they could invest here in India. Okay? Next, which statement accurately characterizes the 1967 introduction of the first satellite communication policy concerning foreign direct investment? So, the correct answer is the policies guidelines for FDI in the satellite industry were initially stringent, but were later relaxed, yet failed to garner significant interest. So, initially, जो 1997 में policy आई थी, it was not very well, it was not very well taken by the private players, both the Indian one as well as the foreign players, and hence the government had to revamp the space policy, and we came up with a new policy in the year 2023. Now, in this context, I have a question for all of you, those who are watching this video. What is the basic difference between FDI and FII? Foreign direct investment and foreign institutional investment, FDI and FII. If you know the correct answer, please write it in the comment box, right? Difference between FDI and FII, foreign institutional investors. All right. What were the cabinet's FDI decision on February 21, 2024 for the space sector? So for the space sector, the government had increased the funding, the FDI, to 74%, okay, for satellite manufacturing, and 49% for launch vehicles, and up to 100% for manufacturing components and systems. Now, see, in the context of this passage and this news, especially given the fact that now you have it in the challenger mock, there are a couple of things that you should ideally do, especially those of you who are not able to answer these questions. आप ये देखो कि प्राइवेटाइजेशन ऑफ स्पेस जो है वो कहाँ कहाँ पे कौन कौन से कंट्री में हो रहा है. इंडिया ने अभी अपनी एफडीआई पॉलिसी को रिलैक्स किया, ठीक है, एंड नाउ 74% ऑफ एफडीआई under automatic route. That means the foreign player does not need any approval from the government for satellite manufacturing. तो ये हो रहा है, right? 49% for launch vehicles and 100% for manufacturing components. So similarly, you see what is happening in the West, what is happening in the US. So in US, you have two big players, right? You have Elon Musk and then you have Jeff Bezos. Both the players are very active in the space sector, है ना? उनकी कंपनीज क्या कर रही है, स्पेस टूरिज्म किस तरह से, स्पेशली हाउ प्राइवेट प्लेयर, व्हाट रोल प्राइवेट प्लेयर्स आर playing, what role private players are playing in the West, ठीक है. सो वेस्ट के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में भी जो जेफ बेजोस की कंपनी है, जो एलॉन मस्क की कंपनी है, ठीक है, वो क्या क्या इनिशिएटिव ले रहे हैं, जो वेरियस लॉन्च व्हीकल्स हैं, उनका नाम क्या है, किस सेंटर से वो लॉन्च हो रहे हैं. सो दीज आर इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट्स जो आपके नोट्स में होना चाहिए, ठीक है. So space sector, especially privatization of space, is a very important topic. And India के context में तो आपको FDI के through अभी हमने ये illustrate करके बताया है. Now it is your task, it is your job to do the background research on what is happening in the West, especially particularly in the USA. ठीक है. Now, which organization established the Committee on Peaceful Uses of Outer Space? Now, this question is also very interesting. Now, when it comes to private spaces of privatization of space, then ideally we should also think about what are the rules and regulations that governs the space, especially the outer space. So, what is the United Nations agreement? What are the international agreements on the space? So, you have Outer Space Treaty of 1967. Okay? Outer Space Treaty of 1967. कैसे आया था, क्या हुआ था, थोड़ा उसके बारे में पढ़ना बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. Then peaceful uses of outer space. This committee on peaceful uses, ये किसका पार्ट है? Is it part of NASA? Is it part of UNGA, UNSC or ESA? So the correct answer is UNGA, United Nations General Assembly, and it was formed in the year 1959. ठीक है, 1959 में फॉर्म हुआ था, और इस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है कि स्पेस से रिलेटेड जो इंटरनेशनल एग्रीमेंट्स हैं, जो रेगुलेशंस है, वो आपको थॉरली कवर करना है. प्लस साइमल्टेनियसली you should also read about various committees, है ना, various organizations that deal with the regulation of space. और now space debris भी बहुत important topic हो गया. Why? Because the moment when we privatize space, eventually we are inviting more private players to come and play a role in it. So कल को और ज़्यादा satellites launch होंगे. After a point of time they will become defunct and they may pollute the outer space. ठीक है? So space debris is also a very major concern for all the space agencies across the globe. So इस context में ये सारे जो related topic हैं, जो ancillary topics हैं, इसको आपको thoroughly cover करना है. Then the fifth passage was on Shabar Port. So India had recently signed a 10-year agreement with Iran to develop and operate Shabar Port, and India has taken its infrastructure and trade partnership with Iran. ठीक है? Now India will invest how much money and how much credit facility has been granted. तो ये question है, यहाँ fill in the blanks है. ठीक है? Now strategic importance क्या है? ये सारे important points हैं जो कि आपको Shabar Port के context में देखना है. All right? थोड़ा और ये भी important है कि when the agreement was signed between India and Iran, USA was not very happy with it. Why? Because Iran and USA, as you all know, they have a hostile relationship. ठीक है? So this hostile relationship, it's all started from the year 1979 when the Iranian Revolution took place. ठीक है? So थोड़ा Iran USA relationship जो है वो भी important हो गया, क्योंकि in the passage it is mentioned here. You can see here. However, after the deal was signed, the US State Department said entities considering business deals with Iran need to be aware that they are opening themselves up to and the potential risk of sanctions. So in a way, US जो है वो directly concern अपना raise कर रहा है कि if India is going ahead with this agreement, then India may face sanctions. So इससे related एक question था which was on the deal which was signed between the permanent 5 members of UNSC +1 and Iran, जिससे कि ईरान की जो इकोनॉमी है वो लिबरलाइज हुई थी. But however, in order to understand and appreciate the entire this particular issue, you need to delve deeper into the historical aspect of it. कि ईरान एंड यूएसए का जो रिलेशनशिप है वो खराब कब से होना स्टार्ट हुआ, Iranian Revolution of 1979 ने क्या रोल प्ले किया था. ठीक है? Then how this relationship was over a period of time, how it evolved, what happened in 2015-16. ठीक है? किस तरह से agreement was signed and eventually Iran agreed to stop its nuclear program on the condition that the sanctions which were imposed against Iran will be taken off by the United States. ठीक है? तो ये सारे कुछ important points हैं, क्योंकि eventually if United States, with whom India has a good relationship, if US is not very happy with India signing a deal with Iran, तो इंडिया को थोड़ा cautious तो होना होगा. Nonetheless, India has to maintain a neutral foreign policy stance because India has to take care of its interests first, है ना? So इंडिया को पहले अपने इंटरेस्ट को बचाना है, उसके बाद फिर वो देखेगा कि जो उसके रिलेशनशिप है दूसरे कंट्रीज के साथ वो कैसा है. Now coming back to the questions here. So Shabar Port is part of which of the following projects? So International North-South Transport Corridor, South-South Transport Corridor. There is nothing called South-South Transport Corridor. बाकी options तो है नहीं. China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. So Iran is not part of it. ठीक है? So the correct answer here is option A. Now when you are reading about INSTC, or let's say for example आपका ये question गलत हो गया. So what are the steps that you should take? So ideally you should first go through the explanation. After going through the explanation, you should also Google the topic. Just type International North-South Transport Corridor, go through the Wikipedia page and see what are the important points which are given there, and note it down in the notebook. All right. All right. The next question is, roughly 200 kilometers from Shabar Port, China is developing a Gwadar Port. This is part of which of the initiative of the China? So string of diamonds, no. Silk Road Initiative. String of diamond is basically India's initiative. Silk Road Initiative भी नहीं है. The correct answer is option C, Belt and Road Initiative. and China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. So China की जो कुछ foreign policies हैं, Belt and Road Initiative and CPEC, these are very important. ठीक है? String of pearls is another one. So ये कुछ कुछ चाइना की जो पॉलिसीज हैं जिसके बारे में आपको थॉरोली पढ़ना चाहिए और बहुत ही अच्छे से पता होना चाहिए. ठीक है? So through as part of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, China is basically trying to connect the Xinjiang province, which is northwestern province of the China, is trying to connect Xinjiang province of China to Pakistan. और ये पाकिस्तान occupied कश्मीर जो है उसको थ्रू होते हुए ये ग्वादर पोर्ट में आ रहा है. ठीक है? So China is basically creating an alternative route to reach this province from the Arabian Sea. This context may important है. Next, the US had eased sanctions on Iran in 2016 after signing of the nuclear agreement. The agreement was signed between United Nations and Iran, this is wrong. US and Iran, this is also wrong. NATO and Iran, absolutely wrong. Okay. The correct answer is United Nations Security Council. P5, the P5 members of UNSC plus one, and this plus one country is Germany. So Germany plus P5 members of UNSC, they had signed an agreement with Iran, and as per the conditions, terms and conditions of this agreement, Iran agreed to halt its nuclear program, provided on the condition that the Western countries will ease sanctions on it. So Iran की सिचुएशन, इकोनॉमिक सिचुएशन थोड़ी अच्छी नहीं थी उस टाइम पे. क्यों? क्योंकि ऑयल एक्सपोर्ट करना चाह रहा था, बट कोई दूसरी कंट्री ऑयल ले नहीं रहे थे. क्यों नहीं ले रहे थे? बिकॉज ऑफ द सैंक्शंस इम्पोज्ड बाय द वेस्ट. ठीक है? सो थ्रू दिस joint comprehensive agreement, the P5 and the Germany agreed to relax the sanctions on Iran. Now the final question that we have here: how much is India investing in Shabar 2 project? So the correct answer is $120 million, right? So ये जो फैक्चुअल, दिस इज एब्सोल्युटली फैक्चुअल इन नेचर. सो ये तो करंट जो न्यूज़ है उसी से रिलेटेड है. However, the previous question was could only be answered by the students who have thoroughly researched on the topic. All right. So that's all we have in this section. So ideally, this course should be between 16 to 20. Yeah, this is considered to be a good score for this mock, and I hope कि अगली challenges series में, which is the fourth challenges series, which will be conducting on 28th of July. ठीक है? You all guys will thoroughly prepare for this challenger, and I wish you all the best for this mock test. I'll repeat again, this will be conducted on 28th of July 2024, which is a Sunday, and the timing is between 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Now it is requested to all the students, those who are watching it, to register for this challenges series in advance. So this is an offline test, तो आप इस offline test को register करने के बाद avail कर सकते हैं, and it is absolutely free of cost. ठीक है? The only thing that you have to do is to register on the link which is provided in the description box, and description box में जाके आप उसको register करो, free of cost mock है. And the most important thing, it gives you an opportunity to win awards. So the student who will top the exam will receive a cash prize of rupees 10,000. And apart from this, we also have other awards lined up, which in total sums up to 2 lakh rupees. Okay, so do check out the award scheme for the challenges series. The link is given in the description. Do not forget to register for the fourth challenger mock test. All right, so thanks a lot for being here. I'll hand it over to Siddhant. Siddhant.